Hello there and good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome to Claret and Booz's Daily Ramble. Today's Tuesday, the 7th of February. My name's John, aka Virgil of the Marshes. And yep, before I get started, if you like the show, then please hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, then please do so. Claret and Booz YouTube channel. And if you hit the bell notification, you'll be advised as and when we go live or upload any pre-recorded videos, as this is. Well, a bit of a personal note, I didn't think I'd get around to doing this today because I've had to take delivery of a washing machine and get rid of an old one. And it's a lot harder than it sounds, especially trying to get those travel bolts at the back of a washing machine. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then have a look. If you do, then I hope you got a little bit of sympathy for me. Okay, so today's show is all about a few little things, really. Talking about a few little injury rumours that are going around at West Ham United. Also going to be talking about the importance of our £25 million centre-back. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about FFP, financial fair play, on a broader scope, i.e. outside of West Ham United. So first things first, I'm going to talk about my new favourite centre-back, Aguerd, or as Moisey calls him, Nathan. Not sure why. I mean, it's hardly a difficult name to say. So, as we know, Aguerd on Saturday evening made a tackle on par with some of the best tackles you'll ever see or have ever seen in your life. The tackle we made against Callum Wilson was, all intents and purposes, as good as scoring a goal at the other end. It was absolutely sublime. It was timed to perfection. And it was faultless. And when you consider that Callum Wilson is no slouch and he probably had a 2 or 3 yard head start on him to some extent, Aguerd knew that whilst chasing back, he needed to make that tackle and he timed it exceptionally well. Okay. And I want to talk about Aguerd and the importance that his return to full fitness and getting back into the team has had, in my opinion, a positive impact on the team as a whole. Now, when we purchased Aguerd in the summer, I hadn't seen too much of him. I'll be totally honest with you. I'd seen a few bits and bobs, but obviously when we was linked with him, I watched a few clips on YouTube, etc., etc. Now, when you watch things on YouTube, you know, it can be edited down to make anybody look like a world beater. And I'm always quite skeptical until I see that player in the flesh. Now, I went to a pre-season friendly in the summer, and I bumped into a few people there. Hello, if you're watching, against Reading. And although it was only Reading, I could see straight away that Aguerd had a sense of stature. He had a style about him. He had a dominance about him. And I was very, very enthusiastic about the prospect of him playing regularly for West Ham. Unfortunately, it would materialise that he got injured in the next pre-season game, I believe, against Glasgow Rangers. And we didn't see him for some time. Obviously, he got fit in time for the World Cup. He did have a bit of an injury scare during the World Cup. But in the main, he was back to full fitness. Now, we know as a club that we've struggled when we've played a back three. Now, I like a back three. Some people don't. I love three centre-backs, okay? Because what three centre-backs gives you is the solidity of knowing that when your wing-backs, your left and right wing-backs, i.e. Emerson or Soufal, when they bomb forward, you know you've got bodies behind you to cover them attacking and going forward. Now, a lot of people don't like 3-5-2. A lot of people call it 5-3-2. In fact, it's both. If it works well, it's both. In possession of the ball, it's definitely a 3-5-2. But more often than not, when you're out of possession and the other team are onto you, you can quite easily shift back into a 5 at the back. And I love that fluidity. That's what football is about. Changing mentality during a game, changing formation as and when you need to. It's one of the reasons I love three centre-backs, but it must be three what I call proper centre-backs. We've seen it in the past how we have, as a club, have struggled with this formation. But the main problem we've had is that the left-sided centre-back has always been a problem for us. We've had Issa Diop, who no longer at the club, who's had some very poor performances at left-sided centre-back. We've had Zuma, who's tried to play left-sided centre-back and hasn't, you know, he's done all right, but he hasn't been great, in my opinion. We've seen Cresswell play there on occasion. And again, he's not a centre-back. So playing him on the left, even though he's left-footed, you know, he's not as commanding in the air for a start. But with the return to full fitness of Aguerd, you can see how much more solid we look, in my opinion. Now, we already have, I think it's the 5th best defence in the league already in terms of how many goals we conceded, okay? And that was predominantly, a lot of those games were without Aguerd. We know we sold Diop. We had to sell Dawson so he could move back up north with his family, quite rightly so, in my opinion. But Aguerd, to me, has been fantastic since he's come back into the team. He is a man who demands respect. He is constantly talking. I know he speaks English, you know, fantastically well. He's a great communicator. You can see him constantly talking to Oggy and whoever the other centre-back may be at the time. You can see him constantly talking and barking out orders to Emerson, encouraging, instructing. And he also does that to the centre midfielders such as Rice or Paqueta or whoever may be there. Now, to me, he is nailed on next captain of this club. We know that Rice is going to go in the summer, and Aguerd, to me, is the next obvious choice of captain. I mean, Oggy's still there, but he probably won't play beyond this season. If he does, it will be in a very minimal role. And I think we need to look to the future now. And at his age that Aguerd is, I think he's 25, 26, you know, he's coming into his own. He's coming into the time of his career when he will only get better and better and better. And I think the whole shape of the team is working better. I mean, it's no coincidence to me that in recent games, Emerson is starting to surprise me how well he's playing. And I questioned Emerson at the beginning of the season when I've seen him play. But with Aguerd behind him, he looks far more confident. And that's what we've found in the past, is that when we've had players play on the left, they've always had to worry about who's behind them. Okay. Now, Emerson will still be under instructions to get back and help Aguerd out. But he will be far more confident going on runs, going forward, knowing that he has the quality of left-sided centre-back behind him, namely Naif Aguerd. He has, in my mind, always been nailed on to be left-sided centre-back. I've said it in previous videos earlier on in the season. I really think Moyes will persist, and I think Moyes is more of a fan of three at the back. And I think Aguerd was originally bought for that specific reason. Yes, he can play comfortably as a pairing, centre-back pairing, if you played 4-4-2 or whatever. But I think 3-5-2 is the way Moyes wants to play. And I like it. And yes, of course, I know that in that sort of system, we do need more quality in terms of left wing back and right wing back. But I mean, Soufal's had a lot of criticism this season, but I must say, even he, in the last couple of games, has been marauding forwards. He's been far more confident. The energy levels have returned, and he's up and down that right-hand side more than he has been all season. Now, okay, he may not have the ultimate quality, consistent quality of crossing the ball in like a world-class right wing back, but I think he's doing a very apt job. And Emerson, to me, is no coincidence that his form has taken an upturn since he's been playing in front of Aguerd. And I love it. I love the three at the back. A lot of people don't like it. And, you know, it's all about opinions, football, isn't it, at the end of the day? But I just think it gives you far more attacking options when you play 3-5-2 or 3-4-1, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's fluidity. And that formation allows the attacking players to be more interchangeable and probably be more confident with what's behind them. Okay, so Aguerd to me is that missing part of the puzzle, and I think if he would have stayed fit from the off, if he would have been playing consistently from the start of the season, I genuinely think we would have seen maybe an upturn in results earlier, sooner rather than later. Now, we know that our problem is scoring goals and attacking and putting the ball in the back of the net rather than letting them in. However, I think now with him at the back and a solid back three centre-backs, then obviously it gives a little bit more encouragement to those in front of him. And he quite rightly won man of the match against Newcastle. And even Declan Rice in the interview said, when he presented him with the man of the match award, he basically said he could have had 10 of these already. So that shows you the respect that the rest of the team have for this man. That shows you the type of character he is. And for me, he is nailed on next captain of West Ham United. And good luck to him. And I'm really excited to see where he will go playing for the club. A lot of people have said to me, me and Nick have been having a bit of a ding-dong back and forth on WhatsApp, that as much as the Aguerd tackle was a fantastic tackle, that we need to not allow him to be having to make those tackles. Now, whilst I agree, we don't want to be stretched like that, what I'm trying to get across is that human nature is that mistakes will happen. Now, Nick quite rightly pointed out that the reason that Aguerd was left exposed like that was that Oggy was drawn out of position to the ball. Now, that's nothing to do with 3 at the back, 5 at the back, 4 at the back. That is an experienced Italian international centre back with a wealth of experience in the bag, just making the wrong decision at the wrong time, which exposed Aguerd and put him under pressure. But didn't he get back well? And didn't he make a match-winning tackle, or a match-drawing tackle, or a point-saving tackle, I should say? So I thought it was a fantastic performance from Aguerd. I like the formation. Obviously, yes, in the summer we may have to invest, or we should invest in more quality in terms of wing-back positions. However, we don't know who will be in charge of the club in the summer or next season. So we don't know, if a new manager does come in, what type of formation they'll play. However, if Moyes is still here next season, which I know a lot of people won't be happy about, then I'm quite happy playing 3 at the back and getting better quality wing backs in. Okay, enough about Aguerd. I could talk about him all day, because I think he's going to be my next centre back crush, if you like. I love a good centre back because obviously I was so good back in the day over Ackley Marshes. Now I'm going to talk very, very briefly about FFP. Now, I'm sure you've heard, but Manchester City are in all sorts of problems in regards to 100. That's right, 100 breaches of FFP regulations. Now, I haven't read the reasoning or in detail what the 100 different aspects of FFP rules that have been broken are. However, they could stem from anything from not sharing information to paying Roberto Mancini's wages through a sponsorship. It's a very, very complicated thing. But Manchester City are in all sorts of trouble, and we are aware now that the possibility is that Manchester City could be retrospectively have titles taken away from them. They could be deducted points this season, or they could be relegated from the Premier League, which I don't see happening, because Manchester City are in fact a shareholder, I believe, or one of the shareholders in the Premier League. So I can't see them being relegated. But if we look across the ocean, if we look across Europe into what's happened to Juventus recently through historic breaches of financial regulations and FFP regulations, they have been deducted points. And, you know, we've already got Liverpool fans jumping on a bandwagon trying to get Premier League titles given to them retrospectively, which, you know, we don't want. You know, at the end of the day, the players at Man City at the time that won that title, they won that title fairly. Obviously, Manchester City may have, you know, doctored the figures somewhat, but, you know, for me, the best outcome for this would be to deduct points. I actually would be in favour of them being relegated, because if it's 100 breaches, then that is an awful lot of misdemeanours on their part, knowingly breaking rules. You know, it's all about balancing up the spreadsheet. So Manchester City have been accused of fictitious sponsorship deals. So having sponsorship deals from relatives of the board who say that they are giving the club X amount of money when they're not, in order to say, well, we've got more coming in so we can spend more out the other side of things. There's been rumours that Roberto Mancini's wages when he was there were being half paid by Manchester City and half paid by, again, one of these sponsors, which has come to affluence that is actually not the case. You know, they have manipulated the financial fair play to the 10th degree, you know. And to be honest with you, you know, I was listening to TalkSport yesterday and people were saying, oh, you know, the Premier League can't be surprised. But nobody's surprised. You know, everyday fans like you and I, you know, we know this goes on. It's not rocket science. I mean, look what's happening to Chelsea at the moment. You know, they are signing players on 8.5-year deals in order to spread the costs of the transfer over those 8 years and allow them to manipulate or, you know, go for a loophole to steer away or get over the financial fair play rules. So much so that the Premier League are now trying to come in with a rule where you can only sign a player on a maximum 5-year contract. I mean, it all completely stinks, all right? And look, what happens now going forward, you know, Chelsea must be a little bit concerned about what they've seen with Manchester City and the new American owner who seems to think that this is the NFL and he can spend exactly what he wants when he wants. You know, if you look at the amount of money they have spent, it's absolutely unbelievable amount of money. You know, I read a stat the other day that apparently Chelsea spent more in the January transfer window than Italy, Spain and Germany combined. All the teams in those countries combined, Chelsea spent more than them. That's quite obviously breaking financial fair play, surely. And the problem we've got in the Premier League is that those superpowers, the people with the money, are in the Premier League, i.e. Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, etc. And the teams in Europe, who are the big players in Italy, etc., they're probably looking across and thinking, we're never going to be able to compete with this. And if this is allowed to continue, this over generous spending, this disgusting amount of spending, then I think it's actually going to attract those European giants to the Super League or the European Breakaway Super League more, because they cannot compete with the money in the Premier League. Now, of course, we know a Premier League club is charged a premium no matter what, just because they are the Premier League, if they look to buy a player from overseas. Stuart Pearce said the other day when he was hosting a chat on TalkSport, he said that he's under the illusion that, you know, if you're a Premier League team and you phone, let's say, Bayern Munich, and in regards to a player, Bayern Munich will automatically add 15, 20 million on straight away because they know, being a Premier League team, you've got the money. And if you look at deals in the January transfer window and look at deals between European clubs in other leagues to each other or in the same league, they're almost like constantly swapping players and loaning players and things like that, you know. They don't spend the money that we spend in the main and as regularly. You know, when you think about Southampton, who've just sacked their manager, I think they spent £40 million in January on 2 strikers. You know, Southampton are a rock bottom of the league. It beggars belief the amount of money going around, and Manchester City, quite rightly, will be punished. The problem is that the charges go back over a 10-year period, and it's all going to be retrospective. How do we punish them, or how does the Premier League punish them? In my mind, the best case scenario is a point deduction. However, that would hand the title to Arsenal more than likely, and I'm not sure I'd be happy about that. But you know, it probably won't happen this season. I think it's going to be a long, drawn-out court case. Solicitors and lawyers are going to be rubbing their hands together on both sides to this. And it's going to take a lot longer to finalise a decision than we wanted. But, you know, at the end of the day, something needs to be done. It's all, you know, it's all corrupt at the end of the day. And we know that as football fans. You know, and West Ham spend a lot of money as well in comparison, but, well, not in January. But, you know, nothing on the vulgar figures spent by Chelsea in January and City in the past. So it's all about cooking the books, as they say. Okay, so I've spoken about Aguerd and how important he's been since he's returned to the defence for the team and that. And just briefly, I want to talk about a couple of injuries now. we saw against Newcastle that Kehrer didn't return for the second half against Newcastle because he's got a suspected hamstring tweak or problem. So he could be out for some time, hopefully not too long. You know, it is a little bit of a concern because Kehrer's West Ham career has been very, very stop-start, a few little injuries, dips in form. He's made a few mistakes. But Nick's right. I do believe we have to persist when he's fit. We have to persist with Kehrer. We can't single him out as a massive problem. Yes, he's going to make mistakes. And he is quite diminutive. I've often said that. But playing at the right of a free, I think he's okay. Obviously, when Zuma's back, it may mean Ogbonna, who, you know, hasn't done much wrong, really. Ogbonna may have to drop out for Zuma, who knows. But Kehrer could be out for some time. Hopefully, it's not too long, and hopefully it's quite precautionary. However, as is quite often the case with the West Ham medical team, we don't often get a full picture. A lot of the time, they're very much guarded with the truth when it comes to injuries. You know, I could go back to Cresswell's back injury when he ran into the post some time ago. You know, he was out for far longer than we was ever told. But there you go. And also, I've had a few little. Now, I haven't found any information about this, but apparently at the end of the Newcastle game, Bowen was limping about, and he may well have a little knock as well as Ings. Now, Ings may not surprise you because obviously we do believe that he is, or many people believe that he is injury prone, but I haven't heard anything untoward about his injury, and hopefully he's going to be fully fit. And Bowen, he did take a knock on the foot during the game, and I did notice him hobbling around a little bit. Hopefully he hasn't done anything too severe, but we're obviously waiting on David Moyes' press conference where he might divulge more information. So, okay, look, I've waffled on for far longer than I expected, but let me know what you think. Aguerd, how good is he? Is he one of the best centre-back buys of all time for West Ham United? Is he one of the best buys? You know, 25 million. What's a bargain? Can you see him? And would you be happy with him being next West Ham United captain when, as we know in the summer, Declan Rice leaves? FFP, tell me what you think City's punishment should be as and when the decision is made. And are Chelsea in danger of being investigated for the very same thing? Let me know what you think in the comments. I will reply to as many as you can. And if any of you have any inside information regarding injuries, let me know. So this has been Claret and Booze's Daily Ramble. If you like what you see, hit the like button. Why not subscribe on YouTube, Claret and Booze YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit that bell notification. My name's John, aka Virgil. I'm off now to plug in the washing machine. Let's hope it works. Have a good day. Come on, you irons.